A great horse will make stars of the people around him, and it was certainly the case with Secretariat.
This is more than the story of a single horse or the story of the great American horse as athlete. This is a story of one of the great American teams.
The team's leader was Penny Chenery Tweedy. In 1971, with her father a victim of Alzheimer's disease, Penny left her comfortable life in Denver and traveled to the East Coast with hopes of saving the family horse farm.
We paid our bills, but we weren't earning a lot of money. My brother, the economist, said, you know, I really don't think we can keep this up. Dad is no longer aware, and we ought to sell the horses and the farm and invest that money in the stock market.
Coming to the wire, it's Riva Ridge under a hand ride by 5 lengths. Coming to the wire, it's Riva Ridge.
Hope for Meadow Stable was sparked in 1972 when one of its horses, Riva Ridge, won the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont Stakes.
Again, it was a great movie script to have Riva Ridge. Indeed, her farm manager, an old Mr. Gentry, said to me after 1972, "Well, I'm sorry, Haywood, for Miss Tweedy. Next year she had all that excitement with Riva, and next year she got nothing." And of course, nothing was Secretariat.
Penny's greatest contribution to Secretariat was herself.
Were it not for Penny Chenery, I think Secretariat would have been as famous and as popular a racehorse, but I don't think we would have remembered him in quite as completely a satisfying way.
Penny was the perfect owner for Secretariat. She was this attractive, intelligent, gracious woman, and I think because of her, probably a lot of the women in America really became interested in Secretariat, maybe more than they would have been had there been a man owner.
I hope I've been a role model for women, but it just was never in italics in my game plan. I just happened to be a woman.
After taking control of Meadow Stable, Penny searched for a trainer she could believe in.
Well, Lucien Laurin was about ready to retire when he was approached by Penny Chenery. She thought Roger Laurin, his son, would train, and he got another offer and left.
And I said, well, what am I going to do? And he said, well, my dad's retired, but, you know, I think he'd help you out for a while.
Lucien Laurin was very confident in his own abilities. He didn't allow the media or anyone else to second guess him. And I think that that kind of confidence is very important. Otherwise, the grind of going through a Triple Crown could have caused a lesser trainer to self-destruct.
Obviously, it worked out very well because he won 5 out of 6 consecutive Triple Crown races.
Laurin's selection of Ron Turcotte to ride Secretariat had its own special logic. Like the trainer, the jockey came from similar roots and hardships as a French-Canadian.
He grew up as a lumberjack, working in the woods in Canada, and he was not the type of jockey to go out there and give out sound bites. He went out there and he rode his horses as hard as he could.
I think Ron was just perfect for that whole Secretariat team. Maybe a jockey that was more outgoing and that demanded the limelight more and all that might have kind of upset that chemistry a little bit.
The thing that worked about Ronnie with Secretariat is that Ronnie came to trust the horse. The rider couldn't do an awful lot to change him. There was no particular need to.
The biggest thing you can say about riding a super horse is he didn't screw it up. He fit the horse ran for him, but this is a horse that would have run for just about anyone.
In 1977, Lucien Laurin was inducted into the Horse Racing Hall of Fame. Ron Turcotte was less fortunate. His riding career ended in 1978 when an accident on the track paralyzed him for life.
It didn't bother him when he was paralyzed from that accident, and he just accepted it. And a lot of people would have said, why me? Ronnie took the attitude of why not me, and eventually went back into his life.
Lucien Laurin and Ron Turcotte would always, I think, be ranked at the top of their professions as trainers and jockeys, but being associated with Secretariat has really given them a special place.
As a national icon, Secretariat was asked to run on an even faster track, the Celebrity Stakes. Freshly signed to a contract by the William Morris Agency, he shared the same talent stable with Sophia Loren and Elvis Presley.
We saw the value of Secretariat, who was quite a sex symbol, but he was an incredible horse, We felt we could make a lot of deals for him.
Caesar's Palace called, and they wanted Secretariat flown to Vegas and walked around the outdoor fountain 3 times a day. And for that, they were going to pay $75,000 to $100,000. So we decided not to do that because it would be too much on the horse.
There was some guy who wanted to market his manure in a plastic cube. I thought that was pretty off the wall.
Despite the sweet smell of ancillary success generated by his fame, Secretariat continued to do what he did best.
They had waited so long for a horse like this to come along, and he really filled their cup. He filled it to the brim.
This is Secretariat Day in Chicago, Illinois.
America's Super Horse, Ron Turcotte, Secretariat by 7, Secretariat 8 lengths.
On the outside, it's Secretariat. Secretariat in front by 2. That's the 16th pole. Ron Turcotte aboard Secretariat. Secretariat in front. His first time over the turf course, a winning one. Secretariat, the winner by 4 lengths.
3 months after winning the Belmont, Secretariat ran in the Marlboro Cup against a horse he knew back in his early youth at Meadow Stable, the 1972 Derby winner, Riva Ridge.
With Riva Ridge out in the middle of the track, moving up now to challenge. That's Riva Ridge on the outside. And along the inside, there goes Onion now moving to contention. Onion on the rail, Riva Ridge on the outside, those 2 heads apart.
And I look, and there comes that big red head with those checkered blinkers on him. And there was nothing you could do. I don't know if he knew it was a stablemate, but he knew that he got outrun for sure.
He was totally out of it. And suddenly he kept from nowhere, he kept coming up faster and faster, and I was standing on the finish line with another member of the broadcast crew. And I said, he can't do it, and the other man said, he just did.
On the outside, it's Secretariat. Secretariat in front by 2. Riva Ridge second and Cougar. Secretariat in front.
What does Secretariat do? He runs by his stablemate, Riva Ridge, sets a world record for 1 mile and an 1/8.
Secretariat ran his last race on a cold, wet October Sunday in Woodbine, Ontario. With Ron Turcotte serving an unrelated suspension, seasoned jockey Eddie Maple sat uneasy in the master horse's saddle.
Maple was a nervous wreck, didn't want to. How would you like to be the guy who lost in Secretariat's last race? You know, you wouldn't live that down for a while.
If something happens and he doesn't win, well, they'll just tar and feather me right there. And I told my wife and son goodbye. You know, maybe you'll never see me again.
Everybody knew that this was the end, that he was not going to race as a 4-year-old. And everybody wanted him to go out doing something spectacular, and he did.
Heading around the turn, Secretariat has the lead. Kennedy Road is second, Price Lucky is third, Presidio is fourth. It is all Secretariat.
And as the horses came out of the final turn, you could see Secretariat alone in front, and steam was blowing out of both nostrils with every exhale, like a locomotive. I mean, it was an incredible sight, and that was the final competitive moment of a career that probably could have known no limits had he kept racing.
He's in the stretch in a blaze of glory. Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, he's all yours. Secretariat wins it by 6.
When the race was over, I went down, and I reached down and grabbed a handful of grass, which, as best as I could tell, was the last step that Secretariat had taken on the track.
Like all great athletes who quit at the top, Secretariat left racing fans to wonder what might have been.
We waited a long time for him. We waited since Man-O-War. I don't expect in my lifetime to see another one like him. We might see another Affirmed, or we might see another Native Dancer or something, but he was perfect.